All right, we're back to the regular agenda, and we'll go through the rest of the business items as quickly as we can. Item 3 on the agenda is to act on minutes of the May 11 regular meeting and the May 26 workshop meeting. Is there a motion to approve the May 11 meeting
So
minutes?
moved.
Second.
Any changes, corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and the May 26 workshop meeting, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Changes, corrections, clarifications, additions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right,
I wasn't here.
okay.
Like for
Twice?
minutes, do we approve the subcommittee minutes at the board level?
No, that's a committee.
It just stays at the
Correct.
subcommittee.
Mr. Sands reviewed the expenditures in the Operations Committee meeting, but could you summarize them, please?
Sure. The expenditures for the month were $5,911,083. So far this fiscal year, we have expended 82.56% of the budget as compared to 81.02% last year. The month showed some revenue, which is good for us, of $423,885, which importantly was mostly composed of the excess cost grant from the state of $299,808. An aside here, we are entitled to excess cost reimbursement from the state relating to certain special ed costs and transportation expenses. We have an unfortunate history with the state that they don't give us 100% of what we're entitled to, but I will say that the 78% of what we were entitled to, while a disappointment relative to what the law says, is better than we have seen in some years in the past. We also got some Medicaid reimbursement of $107,883, and we received tuition for students, not special ed students, but regular students who were who chose to come to the district and are paying the cost to do that. Generally, the items were in line with the budget. Salaries were a little higher than expected because we had 3 payrolls in the month, but that'll even out. And the rest of the material, the rest of the costs were pretty much in line with what we've been seeing. The supplies and materials are lower because there's been a spending freeze. On the other hand, the tuition and the special ed transportation costs continue to run over budget, and the two are somewhat balancing each other out. We are not sure of what's going to happen at the end of the year. There is a possibility that there will be a small surplus, but it's still too early to know.
Okay. So does anybody have any questions? We did talk about this in some detail in the Operations Committee. Is there a motion to approve the expenditures for the month of May?
So move.
Second? Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Communications? Anybody? I got a nice letter from Terry Holland Buckley, the senior coordinator at Park and Rec, who wrote Mr. Macenti a letter thanking him for the high school students in the CARE Club, C-A-R-E Club, who attended the senior prom event at the community center. This is not the senior prom as opposed to the, like, 2 years after sophomore prom or junior, 1 year after junior prom.
This is real
for-
seniors.
This is real seniors, right. This is seniors who are entitled to the label. But the student, I didn't know the students even worked on that and helped with it, but it's a very nice, we had requested the club's assistance with decorating, creating a backdrop, taking pictures, assisting. I cannot say enough positive things about the youth who attended and helped They went above and beyond my expectations. The seniors, that is, not the student seniors, but the senior citizens, had a wonderful time. I hope to work with this wonderful group on activities next year. The seniors love getting to know the youth, and their energy and enthusiasm are contagious. We look forward to a continued positive relationship with these inspirational youths. My hunch is that's a little bit of a two-way street, but
think so, yes.
that's a very
That's
nice
great.
letter. And I'm
Very
sure
nice.
the students were very excited to participate, so.
Absolutely.
Any other communications or comments?
This council communication, but it was a discussion that came up, and Amy actually brought it to my attention, that in National Junior Honor Society, just a large preponderance of girls, 30-something, in the 30s of girls, two boys in the 7th grade. And I'm not complaining because my son wasn't one of them. But that's more than a statistical blip. And I don't know, we don't have to get into it tonight. But apparently the years before, it's also been like, predominantly girls at that age. And, just like we worry about STEM being all the boys up there. I just wonder why that is.
It's an interesting question.
Maybe you could just talk to them. I'm not, I guess I should know what the selection criteria are, but I don't really know off the top of my head. I know
grades.
It's grades and something else, isn't it? Or is it purely
Citizenship.
grades?
Grades, citizenship, leadership, yes.
But in order to get in, you have to have the grades, right? And then they're asked to do other things. So.
To maintain.
Well, first of all,
You do have to maintain
developmentally, girls at that age, middle school age, are much more advanced developmentally, physically, and intellectually. They're more compliant. And as we saw tonight, when the robotics team came, the proportion of boys versus girls was the exact reverse. So I think it's not unexpected that at the middle school age group, you would see girls achieving higher grades and doing better than boys. But that evens out by the time they get to high school.
Two is a small amount. I mean, the information was, well, it was credible. I can't claim it to be fact, but two
It's true,
is-
I was there. There
Two
were
is a
two
very,
boys.
and I was told that it wasn't just two that decided to go through the process. There was two that met the qualifications.
Correct.
So,
I
just-
could have a conversation
Yeah, we
with,
just might
with
get some-
Mrs. Walker, I'd be happy to.
Okay, anything else on communications? Okay. 9.1 on the agenda is to act on various personnel items. First is to ratify the resignation for the purpose of retirement of Carmel Santoro, who's a math teacher at the high school, of 1 FTE. Is there a motion to ratify that resignation?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Second is to ratify the non-renewal for staffing reductions for 3 teachers. James Holleran, who's a .2 FTE at the high school math. Jessica Jolene Cox, a kindergarten teacher, and Leanne Susi, a grade 2 teacher, both of them with 1 year of service. Now, this is a little bit unusual. We haven't done this lately, but this is actually a layoff because of the budget that was adopted and enrollment.
Yep.
And-
These are,
and-
yes,
yeah.
2 of these 3. In Mr. Halloran's purpose, he was covering overages. He was covering classes that we didn't have, we otherwise didn't have coverage for in the last 2 years, and that need has moved on. So he was here covering student need. And the others are related to what we discussed during the budget process. We reduced 5 elementary classroom positions this year. Through attrition and rescheduling and reassigning, we were able to absorb 3 of those positions and not have to lay off real certified employees. These 2 teachers will be moving on to a recall list. We simply do not have room for them as a result of the enrollment reductions that we've made next year. Contractually, we have all the confidence in the world in their performance. This is not performance-based. They'll be placed on a recall list, and should we have increased needs or retirements next year, for 2 years, these teachers will stay on an automatic recall list, and we'd be happy to invite them back if we have the opportunity to do so.
And with only 2 retirements this year, as opposed to the years in the past, where we had some much larger numbers, it causes this kind of thing to happen.
Right, and even though that number is beginning to creep up, so we've had a couple other retirements since we established the budget, But if those retirements happen in a subject area 7 through 12, it
Right,
does
high
nothing to
school's not
relieve,
gonna-
right, it does nothing to relieve the K through 6 certification where we made the elementary reductions. So this is related to your next item, and it's an unfortunate reality when we have the types of enrollment reductions leading to budgetary reductions that we've experienced this year without an equal number of offsetting retirements.
All right, so is there a motion that we ratify the non-renewal for staffing reduction for those three teachers?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item 9.2 is to rescind the non-renewals, which we did whenever we did it 2 or 3 months ago.
We did on March 10th, the
March
board took
10th.
action.
For the teachers listed on this exhibit, I don't know that I need to read the names in. It's on the list that is 9.2 in our, attached to the agenda. So is there a motion to rescind the non-renewal for those teachers?
So moved. Seconded.
Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did we say that we're going to table 9.3 and
And
9.4?
9.4.
All right, we're going to carry those over to the workshop meeting at the end of June? By the way, while I'm thinking about it, the workshop meeting at the end of June, where is that going to be? Do you remember? I guess more
It's at
importantly,
Lakes.
where's the July meeting going to
That's,
be?
yeah.
So the
Oh, that's a good point. In a field.
The workshop meeting at the end of June is scheduled for Lakes, so we
Okay.
anticipate being at Lakes, and we will
Lakes still
confirm
be there.
that for
That's
all of
good.
you.
Okay.
The regular board meeting for July, we anticipate being able to hold in the media center in the new high school. I will say for you that we will want to confirm that date, so we will confirm that date as we get closer. But we expect to have full public occupancy of that building immediately following the 4th of July weekend, which should allow us to have a meeting there on that evening.
Do we need to bring lawn chairs, or will there be?
I would
That
like
makes
to
this the
confirm
last
that
meeting
date.
in this
I'm not
library, is
sure
that
if the
right?
projector will be
This
working.
is the last meeting in this library.
Yes,
Well,
Wow.
you can, if you wish to at the end of the meeting,
Make some kind of statement.
some thoughtful comments about what this room has meant to all of us. I will see
I
that.
think you're all going to miss the frogs. And,
I know. The chorus.
I'm sure.
My daughters have actually already said that they want to assist in trying to make sure that all that gets relocated, but Mr. Macenti has apparently
He
got that
wasn't
under control
interested.
already. No, he's very interested. They've apparently got some club here is going to relocate all of the
frogs.
things out there. Yes. So, anyway,
Hope to be able to host it in the new school. We will
Be cool to
confirm, we
wear
will
the hard
confirm that
hats. No.
location.
all right, so,
No,
so you will, we will put out word on where that's going to be.
Is there actually a date where
One
this
wonder
school is
sometimes that-
closed to further public access?
Yeah, or just one of
I
the
think
schools.
that we were
Yeah, I'm
tabling
sorry.
until
I'm sorry.
next month.
Is there a date where this school is closed to further public access in terms of other events or?
Yes, there are 2 notifications that we're working on today. We expect that this building will be closed to public access on or about June 29th. It may be a couple days prior to that. But on that date, if not sooner, this building will become property of the demolition company. We will begin asbestos abatement, and it will no longer be safe for public entry, and it will be off limits to everyone on or about June 29th. And we're working
Are
on.
there things that we do in the summer that often take place here that are being disrupted because the other building's not quite ready?
Yeah, we've got a lot of summer activities that are disrupted this year because of the roof work at Lakes, the security work at Jones, and the demolition that'll be occurring here. Leet will be a hotbed of activity this summer. Baldwin will be hosting a large amount, so extended school year activities for special education students
Doing a STEM program
at Baldwin.
for rising fourth and fifth grade students.
Reading camp.
We have our Title I reading camp for first and a few second grade students.
New teacher orientation.
New teacher orientation.
There's a lot that's being disrupted.
is usually here.
Most of those dates and locations have already been communicated to the specific populations involved, and we're working on the posting for this building that'll go out to the website and will likely be a school messenger notification to the whole community. If you leave your calculus book in this building after June 29th, you're not going to be able to come back in and claim it, and so we need to communicate that.
Okay. 9.5 is to act on a submission of the IDEA grant to the federal government. This is two grants, one in the amount of $664,847 and the other $20,525 for IDEA Section 611 and 619 funds. Is there a motion to authorize the administration to submit a grant application in those amounts?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Mrs. Brown asked me to extend her apologies for her inability to be here tonight, and after that conversation, I'm glad she chose not to be here to wait through. Thank you very much for the approval.
I think we can do that without Mrs. Brown's being.
We'll take money.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know how to do that.
I did forward to the board that we did receive a letter requesting to name the Guilford High School, the new Guilford High School baseball field. We actually have a policy on exactly that issue, and the request was by one of the Park and Rec Commissioners to name it after Ralph Shapani Jr. My suggestion is that we just acknowledge that we've received it and then follow the process set forth in the written policy and revisit it as recommended pursuant to the policy.
I've already acknowledged the receipt of the letter and noted for him that it will be placed on this agenda, and anticipated for him that there would be little discussion and no action tonight as you move
Right.
forward following the policy, and I'll facilitate your handling the policy. as
Right,
it's
we
laid
just
out.
need to make
Yep.
sure that now we follow the
Yep.
rules and
Happy to.
move forward. 10 committee reports, policy committee, anything?
We have not met in a couple months, so
Okay.
we have nothing to report tonight.
Operations committee, we talked a little bit about the operations committee.
Well, there were two important items that I think the community should be aware of. In terms of food service, we have reduced our deficit that we had been running by 50%, and that takes into account the fact that we've absorbed the cost of the changing from styrofoam trays to reusable trays. Two schools are showing very positive results in terms of profit and loss, if we could use those words in the school. And we had a long discussion about the Baldwin windows and talked about there is a bond that the community has passed roughly for $1 million to replace the windows at, most of the windows at Baldwin. And we discussed working with engineers and architects to increase our reimbursement from the state for that project. So that's going forward. And finally, in view of our previous discussion about the new high school, there will be a ribbon cutting on September 26th for the new high school with some VIP guests, I assume.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else? Curriculum committee, curriculum and instruction and assessment committee. We did meet
Before our last meeting.
before and continued the discussion about the math sequencing, and you did share something. Dr. Freeman and I talked a little bit earlier today, and there is a little bit of a development in the 8th grade math program in terms of whether kids are going to be bused from the junior high to the high school. Is that still up in the air, or have you resolved that issue?
No,
At least
we have
tentatively?
resolved that. There's a small number of students who had taken algebra this year as 7th graders, would have a necessity to take geometry next year as 8th graders. The initial thought was, as in past years, those students would take the early high school run, come to the high school to start their day, and then be bused back to the middle school. There were some complications with that schedule. At this point, Mrs. Walker will be scheduling an additional math class at Adams to absorb that overage. And so students who have been recommended or approved and who will be enrolled in geometry as 8th graders will be taking that at Adams within their normal school day. They will not be coming over to the high school to take that class. In the small number of parents with whom I've had contact, there's some relief because that creates some logistical easing, and there's some disappointment because it means they will have to wait a whole nother year before they can take their first class in the new high school. So as with everything, there's been some mixed response to
Yeah,
that news.
That's fine. They get
They'll
4
get
years of
over
the new
it.
high school.
Yeah,
anyway.
I know.
They'll be okay. Okay, building committee, we've talked about that. Any town
We'll be
committee?
meeting tomorrow evening. Cliff Gurnham and I will be in attendance tomorrow evening.
Town committee liaisons, is there anything particularly important? Okay.
I just want to mention, as a liaison to Learn, there is a Learn breakfast this Thursday at 8:30, and any of you would like to attend, it's open. I'm opening the invitation. They have wonderful breakfast.
It's a really nice addition where you get to hear more about the work that they're doing. I, however, have a conflict this year, and so I hope that you'll explain to Elaine that I'm sorry that I won't be able to make it this year, but it is something that I like that they've added to the services.
This
they
is this
provide.
upcoming Thursday?
This coming Thursday at 8:30 at
Maybe,
Learn.
can somebody send an email out,
Sure.
just to remind people, and so, yeah, it's not,
And location.
yeah, location.
Yep, it's at Hatchetts Hill, but I'll send out a reminder and a notice. It's a nice opportunity to bring Learn staff and the administration from Learn schools together. It's sort of an end-of-the-year report, and they do a very nice job with it.
So if you're interested to learn more about Learn and
Yes.
all the things that they do.
It's a good way to do it in one
It's a
morning.
good way to do it and also have a delicious breakfast.
There you go.
Okay, public questions? Anything? All right. Public shakes its head. No. Oh, sure.
Mike Graziano, Sperry Drive. I'd just like to warn you to tread really, really carefully about the music and how you're going to treat that. I understand where you're thinking, oh, gee, they're going to have 3 longer periods. But if you have 200 kids in a classroom and you have them there for 71 minutes, it's not the same thing as having 40 minutes and then having a small group where you can address problems with those students.
Yeah, I don't think it is too.
So maybe
no, I
I'm
think
missing
it-
something?
I think it is
But you're
small.
still going to have the one day a week that you're going to have that lesson. But I believe at one time it was almost every day that the kids were having music. And it makes a huge difference. And not having every other day or just only one day that they're going to have any kind of individual instruction, or not individual, but I mean, small group instruction. Guilford has a wonderful music program. There's a reason, because of that system. And I really think that you're playing with fire. If you're not going to somehow figure out how those kids will get some kind of more individual or group, smaller group, help. Just understand that a trombone player needs different things than a clarinet player needs different things than a trumpet player. And when you have 200 kids there, and how are you going to help that one kid over here that needs help out of that 200?
Yeah, I don't think there's any 200
I know it's more time. I understand what you're saying, but it's not.
The 2 pieces will still exist. The new schedule has both the whole group instruction for the whole orchestra and continues the pull-out instruction by instrumentation. The difference is that pull-out instruction by instrumentation can't be pulled out of exclusively study halls anymore. It needs to be pulled out of other classroom time.
But the small groups.
Continues. Yes, the
Are gonna
small
be the
group
same.
instruction continues, yes.
Right now, aren't they seeing the kids in a small group like twice a week or 3 times a week? I might be wrong. I mean, things have changed, but I thought at one time that the kids were going to the large group maybe twice a week, but the small group
I'll
were
make
a
sure I
couple times a
confirm with
week.
Doug,
The-
but
the
And that's where all the
terminology
work is done,
That I hear.
where the kids actually learn the instruments. So I understand you're trying to put this together and try, but I just want to make sure that, you want to talk to Jack Thompson, who actually was, I believe, was the original person that tried to get the schedule the way it is now, so that the kids would be in band every day, not have to worry about the kids practicing at home or whatever. And the one other comment I'm going to make is that over the years, I've seen where, you have the scores for the fourth, first, second, third, and fourth, and all of a sudden, the scores get higher in 5th grade. And I believe the reason for that is that that's the year you start instrumental music, when you start having 400 kids playing an instrument. And the whole idea that a student will now lose the whole brain, not just one part of it, is very, very powerful in music. And I've seen students go from bottom of the class to, you know, rise well above in their own life, time in high school, between high school. So, again, I just want to make sure that it's looked at very carefully, and that someone like Kara Foncello or Jack Thompson, or somebody who's been doing it for, you know, did it for 30, 40 years, looks at this schedule and say, what's the problem, what we might need? You might need a couple extra teachers, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to, but I just want to say that I don't want you to mess with something that's
Well, I
been
would
working for 20 years.
I would just
or
note
30 years.
that
So,
the
I gotta go back
third
to
largest
the camera.
increase, yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Thank you.
If I'm reading the table correctly, and I think I am, the third largest increase in instructional time under this schedule after math and world language would be performance music.
Correct.
So I think it would be a pretty hard,
I think well, anyway, the terminology that gets thrown around my house, which is I think what he's probably talking about, is they have band lesson, they have band with just, if you're on 6, whatever, you have band with your 2 friends, and then, I don't know, however many times a cycle,
I
then
think
they
it's
have
only
big
once a
band,
cycle you
where
have
the
big
entire
band.
6th grade band plays together, and otherwise you're just playing with team 6, whatever, and then your lesson. I think that's what.
But
So
I-
with this
Is that what you're
schedule,
talking
is that
about?
going to be the entire band, 3 times a week, the big one?
Yeah, I'll need to follow up with Doug, so I appreciate the concern, and I can follow up with Mr. Hamel and report back to you. But
Okay, yeah.
my initial understanding is the same as yours, Mr. Bloss, but I will get details from Mr. Hamel and
Okay.
report back
And
to you.
just let us know.
Yes, I
Okay.
do understand the concern as it was raised.
okay. So we do have a quick executive session on 2 items. We are in negotiations with the nurses, and it is time to start the process for the superintendent's evaluation. So we need to do just a quick executive session on those items. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We will come into public session again to adjourn. There will be no further public votes this evening. Thank you.